Hello, my fellow broke aristocrats. So, as many of you know, I have not been posting for the last week and I did not do a tea time. And that is because I am actively seeking a new place to live. It's a little bit overwhelming. As I had mentioned in previous videos, when you're trying to determine what your emergency fund should be, you have to look at your unique situation. America's a big country and everyone's living very, very different. Viva la différence. Now, as I have said before, I live in Los Angeles, which is an unbelievably expensive city. And when I think about my emergency fund, I have to think in terms of what is the most likely emergency that's going to happen to a single woman in her 50s living in Los Angeles who doesn't have the opportunity to sleep on my parents' couch. So for me, that is an emergency situation with my living situation. So about a week ago, the main pipe under the old Victorian house we live in broke. We're pretty sure it has to do with the trees. This is 100-year-old piping. Some of the piping is 100 years old. The landlord was in Europe for 2 weeks and she just got back, and just today she's calling her insurance company to see what they can take care of. But while that was going on, I had no shower. I had no water supply in the main house, and I had to traipse across to, or I had none in the guest house, so I had to keep going across the way to use facilities. It was a bad situation. What I did in my unique situation when I was paying off my debt is I put $1,000 aside for my emergency fund, and then I began to pay down my debt. And then I went off the Dave Ramsey program because I felt like if I wind up in this emergency situation, I'm going to be out on the streets. We have a huge problem with working homeless in Los Angeles. It's a very scary situation. And then what happens is people wind up in that situation where they have no place to live. A crisis happens, something happens, and they don't have the money to get a place to live. So I've been shopping around. I did put a little bit of money aside every month in my emergency fund while I paid off my credit cards. So that is my system. Everybody has to find the system that's right for them. We are all individuals, but started with the $1,000, continued to pay off the debt, did step one, started step two of the baby steps. While I was on step two, I modified it and continued to put a little bit of money aside, building up my emergency fund because of the type of town I live in. So I've been looking around for studios. It's exhausting. It is absolutely exhausting. It has to be pet friendly. My cat has to like it. It has to be a safe area. It has to be affordable. I've been looking at studios. A small studio runs $1,300 a month, but it's not in the best neighborhood. I saw one for about $1,350. Not a great neighborhood. Also is going to take me an hour to get to work, or I'm going to Uber it. So I have to calculate if I'm taking Uber, particularly late at night for safety reasons, we're talking there goes $200 versus walking or taking a bus, which is going to be a lot cheaper. So I calculated for living close to my office, I gave myself $200 a discount for the Uber if I'm able to walk to work or take a bus. Right? Time is money. So that's putting it up to $1,500, $1,600 approximately. Also, if I'm no longer having to eat out because I now have a kitchen, that's going to save me a lot of money, because I can tell you, as somebody who did not want to keep traipsing into the main house every time I tried to cook and share the kitchen with 10 other people, it was not a working situation. That's going to save me a couple of $100. So in the freak economics of the time, if I'm, say, renting a room for $850 and then moving to a studio for $1,600, on paper it looks like I'm spending a lot more money than I had before, and I am. But if you discount for Uber, if you take off for the eating out, you can tweak your budget in a situation like that. I'm still going to be paying a little bit more than I was, but it's by no means as horrible as it sounds, because I'll have my own private kitchen, which for me is a luxury. My business has been very solid this month. In fact, it's been I can happily say that my business is better this month than in the history of the business that I started. And that brings me to the conversation of people who either give up too soon or don't understand how long it can take to build a business. In June, I will have been at this location for 3 years. 3 years of slowly laying the groundwork for the type of medicine I want to practice, which was a discovery. I had to go on a journey to try and find out what kind of medicine I wanted to practice, how I wanted to be a doctor. That is now starting to come more into focus. It is a long journey to get your business up and running. Most businesses fold in about 5 years, but usually if you can make it past the 1 or 2 mark, you're probably going to make it, I think. I think if you're at 3 years and your income is increasing at that business, barring a major disaster, which of course you also, that's why we have malpractice, you're probably going to make it, I think. Certainly the odds are more in your favor as time goes by. And this brings me to the conversation where people will say, well, Dr. Anderson, why don't you just move to Oklahoma? Rent is only $200 a month for a studio, or $300 a month. Do you want to uproot your whole life, your business, because theoretically things are cheaper? Yes, things are theoretically cheaper, but a doctor in Los Angeles, a naturopathic doctor in Los Angeles, who's charging $275 per consultation, is going to be making more money. Theoretically, that's going to cushion for the higher rent. So yes, the rent is more expensive, but you're charging more to balance out for the rent. So you may actually be ahead if you have a business in a large city where you have more of a customer base than if you go to a smaller town where things are cheaper. Things are cheaper, but there's no work. Things are cheaper, but there's no business. There's no customers. All of that has to be taken into consideration. Also, you have to take into consideration how long you've been working your business. If you have been building a solid foundation on your business for 3 years, and then you uproot yourself and start again because it's cheaper rent, you may actually be putting yourself in a much worse financial situation. I certainly think that that's the case with me. You have to just figure out what's right for you, and if we're narrow in our thinking, we can potentially put ourselves in a situation that's not that great. And that is my feeling about the emergency funds, because the money is there. I have money in my savings, I have money in my checking account. So now if I look at a place that's $1,600 a month, I can put in first, last, deposit, check for the security, pets fee, etc. We're talking about theoretically $3,500 to $4,000 cash coming out of your account at a given time, if that emergency should arise and you're living in a large city. So hopefully what has happened to me and the fact that I prepared for the worst case scenario hopefully can help other people in their unique situation. Think about what the most likely worst case scenario for Murphy is, and then plan accordingly. And you may be okay with $1,000. If you are living in a small town and rents are cheap and your job and home life is secure, then that may work for you. But if you're in my situation, and you're someone who doesn't like I have a company credit card, but I don't use that credit card for other than my business. That is my unique situation. Find the situation that works best for you. And remember, though we're all doing it differently, we all share one thing in common that we all agree about in the frugal community. And that is that if you live dramatically below your means, if you give yourself enough time, you're going to do very well for yourself financially on any salary. Time is really the issue at that point. But the main rule is, that we all agree, live dramatically below your means. And if you are a broke aristocrat, you also follow the second rule, which is we never compromise our health to save a buck. We never compromise our health to save a buck. All right. And that includes finding a safe neighborhood. All right. Thanks for watching. Stay safe, everyone. And hopefully everybody send good prayers. I'll send good prayers back that Whimsy and Mila find a safe, comfortable, and affordable place to live that's close to my office. All right.